Matura, or its translated terms, is a Latin name for the high school exit exam or maturity diploma in various countries, including Albania, Austria, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Italy, Kosovo, Liechtenstein, Macedonia, Montenegro, Poland, Serbia, Slovakia, Slovenia, Switzerland and Ukraine. It is taken by young adults at the end of their secondary education, and generally must be passed in order to apply to a university or other institutions of higher education. Matura is a matriculation examination and can be compared to A-level exams or Abitur. Matura in Albania, the official name is Matura Shtata Ruri, which was introduced in 2006 by the Ministry of Education and Science, replacing the school-based Provamet Uriza. The Matura is the obligatory exam one must pass after finishing the gymnasium to have one's education formally recognized and to become eligible to enroll in universities. Vocational schools are part of the Matura with a somehow different exam structure. The Matura is a centralized affair, conducted by the AVA, which is in charge of selecting tasks, appointing national examiners, grading the sheets. The MOES does the general administration and logistics of the nationwide exams. A second agency modelled after the UK University and Colleges Admissions Service and the German Zentralstelle für one Quarter die Vergabe von Studienplankurrencies is in charge for the admission to all Albanian universities the applicants have applied for. The two compulsory subjects to complete secondary education are Albanian language and literature and mathematics. For being admitted in a university, students must take 2 additional exams which they choose themselves out of a list of 8 subjects. The Matura exams take place in 3 separate days, usually in the June-July period. The 2 first days are for each of the compulsory subjects. The third day is for the 2 additional exams. The basic marks range from 4 to 10. For university admissions, though, a more complex system called MEP is used. The state Matura and the MEP replaced an admission system conducted individually by each faculty university, which was seen as abusive. Matura in Austria. The official term for Matura in Austria is Reifabler 1/4 Fung. The document received after the successful completion of the written and oral exams is called Maturazeugnis. In the gymnasium, which, as opposed to vocational schools, focuses on general education, the Matura consists of 3 Euro-4 written exams to be taken on consecutive mornings and 3 to 4 oral exams to be taken on the same half-day about a month later. All examinations are held at the school which the candidate last attended. Candidates have the option to write a scholarly paper to be submitted at the beginning of the February preceding the final exams, which, if accepted, reduces the number of written exams by 1. As the Fatschbier exhibit is seen as an equivalent to a subject. This paper also needs to be defended in the corresponding oral exam. The grading system is the one universally used in Austrian schools. 1 is excellent. 2 is good. 3 is satisfactory. 4 is passed and 5 means that the candidate has failed. In addition, a candidate's Maturazeugnis contains a formalized overall assessment, mit Ostjesiaken bestanden, mit gutem bestanden, bestanden, and nicht bestanden. Candidates who have failed may retake their exams in September, October or February, March of the following school year. Compulsory subjects for the written finals are always German and mathematics, as well as a foreign language. Schools with a focus on science may require their students to take written finals in biology or physics. Perhaps the most striking aspect of the Austrian Matura is that it is a decentralized affair. There is only one external examiner. Candidates are set tasks both for their written and oral finals by their own teachers. Formally, however, there is an examination board consisting of the candidate's teachers, examiners, the headmaster, headmistress and 1 external Visitsend, usually a high-ranking school official or the head of another school. Oral exams are held publicly, but attendance by anyone other than a candidate's former schoolmates is not encouraged, and indeed rare. It is possible for Austrians of all age groups to take the Matura. Adults from their 20s on are usually tutored at private institutions of adult education before taking their final tests, held separately before a regional examination board. equals the new centralized Matura equals. In 2015, the old Matura system was replaced by a new concept called Central Matura. Graduation exams are now put together by BFI, and every graduation exam in Austria is now held on the same day. However, the teachers still correct all the exams themselves using an answer sheet that is included in the exam packages. Students can still choose either 4 or 3 written exams. When students choose 3 written exams, they will have to do another 3 oral exams. When choosing 4 written exams, only 2 additional oral exams are necessary. What is also new is that every student now has to write a graduation paper called VWA. They can choose any topic they want, usually 1 year before graduating. When they have finished writing it, they have to present it to teachers and to the head. The VWA is another grade in the Matura. Matura in Bulgaria. In Bulgarian, the Matura is formally called THN Euro paragraph degree squared micron 1/2 Euro micron 3/4 micron 1/2 or th, but usually it is called simply 1/4 degree n Euro degree. There is only one compulsory subject, a Euro-Bulgarian language and literature, but students are required to select an additional subject of their choice. They can also request a third subject. Each exam consists of a single written test. The second subject must be chosen between a foreign language, mathematics, physics and astronomy, biology and health education, chemistry and environmental science, history and civilization, geography and economics, cycle of philosophy. In 2008, according to the statistics on the website of the Bulgarian Ministry of Education, 76,013 students have registered for the Matura exams. Of them, only 1,748 students registered for a third, voluntary subject. Only 845 of them passed the third examination successfully. Because of the exam's challenging nature, students who request a third subject have a significant advantage in the university admissions process. Matura in Croatia. Nationwide leaving exams were introduced for gymnasium students in the school year 2009 a Euro 2010. There are 3 compulsory subjects: Croatian language, mathematics and a foreign language. Classical gymnasium students are also able to choose Latin or ancient Greek instead of or in addition to a modern foreign language. The optional subjects will be geography, biology, physics, chemistry, computer science, history, music, visual arts, ethics, religious studies, philosophy, psychology, sociology, politics and logics. The compulsory subjects are also available at a basic or extended level, with 1 point of the extended level exam being worth 1.6 points of the basic level exam. Points of the basic level are converted into points of the extended level by dividing them by 1.6, so a student achieving 100 points in the basic exam, in the end will only be given 62.5 points. The extended level offers the possibility of achieving 100 points but carries the risk of gaining a lower result due to the elevated difficulty level. The examinations are conducted by the National Center for External Evaluation of Education. Students receive their exams in sealed opaque silver bags. They are required to open the bags. Inside the bag, they get the exam booklet, piece of paper for marking the answers, a concept booklet, a piece of paper with stickers which contain a barcode and need to be glued on everything of the aforementioned prior to the beginning of exam, including a new bag, in which everything is put and the bag sealed up at the end of the exam, with the bags then sent to NCVVO. The answers of the exams are publicly available 2 days after the exam. Examinees can complain on individual questions' answers after the early results are in, about a week before the final results. This resulted in 7 questions being cancelled in 2012 Croatian Matura exam, with examinees getting all the points due to possible multiple interpretations of the source text and the indiscrimination by the examinees shown by psychometric analysis. Croatian language exam has 2 parts, literature written exam and an essay. Students can choose whether to write the basic or extended level of the exam. The literature appearing in the exam changes annually. However, the list of works which can appear remains the same, and it consists of the following: Camus the Stranger, Caesaria s Lyrica, Gondolia s Dubrava, Ibsen's A Doll's House, Krlea 3/4 A's The Glimpses, Matura s Pjesme, Novak's Besljitanjai Stepana Ei and Sophocles' Antigone for the basic level and Camus Stranger, Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, Dra 3/4 es Dundu Marriage, Flaubert's Madame Bovary, Goethe's The Sorrows of Young Mother, Kafka's The Metamorphosis, Krlea 3/4 A's The Glimpses and the Return of Philip Lasianovich, Marinkovia s Rook, Nahajev's Bijk, Poe's The Black Cat, Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye, Sophocles' Antigone. Angstrom Imia s Preobra 3/4 Enjar and Angstrom Oljan's Kritkiaslit for the extended level, respectively. The literature exam is 80 minutes long and is composed mostly of the multiple-choice assignments, but also has a couple of matching questions assignments, whereas the written essay part of the exam is 160 minutes long and requires from 400 to 600 words. The literature exam will take place in May and the essay exam will take place 2 days later. Further enrollment into university programs is conducted via Internet. Lists of students with right to enrollment are processed by the central computer for each university based on the results of the exams. The points gained in the exams are converted into points for enrollment. Each university sets its own criteria of valuing these exams depending on the area of science or art which is taught. For example, a student enrolling in a philosophy program will have 0% or 5% of points for enrollment extracted from his mathematics exam, but up to 80% from Croatian. So if the result of a math test is excellent, but the Croatian test is bad, the student's chances are reduced because only 5% will be extrapolated from the excellent math test and a large 80% from the slim result in Croatian, giving the student a lower sum of enrollment points. However, the same student may apply to a mathematics program and will be given points based on the very same exams, but a different percentage will be extrapolated, giving advantage to mathematics. In the end, the final 100% must be extrapolated from the exams, but the exams themselves are set by the universities. In general, the universities demand the 3 compulsory exams to be passed along with 1 optional subject that is generally given higher attention. Each student has the right to attempt to enroll into a maximum of 10 universities, and when chosen the preferred university is deleted from the lists of the other 9, thus allowing other students to move up these lists and achieve the right of enrollment in their preferred university. Matura in the Czech Republic. The official term for Matura in the Czech Republic is Maturita or Maturitna Zkoua. In 2010 the Czech Republic introduced a system of state exams which divided the previous system into 2 parts. The first is the state exam, which consists of 2 compulsory subjects, Czech language and literature, and a foreign language and, voluntarily, mathematics. The second part consists of school subjects which varies between schools. The state part of the exam is supervised by Cermat, a state-managed company. Cermat issues final tests for the state part of the exam, documentation and practical tests, holds training for teachers who correct essays and supervise the students during the exams. The main part of the company is the tech center, which is used for auto-correcting the students' exams. State exams are subject to continual improvement. Today the tests consist of 4 exams from which 2 are state-organized and 2 school-organized. In the future the state wants to add at least 1 more state exam and 1 more compulsory school exam. In 2012 the state part of the Maturita exam was split into 2 difficulty levels. Students could choose between basic and advanced tests. This solution was found to be ineffective and was cancelled the following year. The Czech Republic also has a separate examination system called Národní srovnávací Zkoušky, owned and managed by the private company SIO, SRO, which provides tests for all subjects. Most Czech universities recognize the results of these tests and students can be accepted based on these results, however, they still have to succeed in the Maturita exam. The examination itself is also divided between written and oral parts, but not all subjects require both written and spoken input. Usually both the written and the oral part of the exam are set in late spring. The state part of the written exam is set to one day in which students in the whole country write identical tests. Different tests are always issued on the day the exam takes place. The school part is always different and is based on requirements of the school which issues the test, so it may be both written and spoken, but it can also be only one of the options. The oral part of the Maturity exam takes part in a classroom in which a commissioner must be present. The oral exam is divided into two 15-minute parts. First, a student draws a number of his question and then he begins 15 minutes of preparation, often called potatko. After the first 15 minutes he is called into the 15-minute oral exam. The commission is composed of the class teacher, commissioner and either a principal or a representative principal. The student is examined by the examiner and an assessor. The examiner and the assessor usually agree on a grade which should be assigned to the student, and if not, the commission takes a vote for the grade. Students can graduate with a grade better than 5. Exam duration, for both oral and written exams, as well as preparation time, can be longer for students with disabilities. If students fail in one subject, they have the option to repeat the subject. If they fail more than one subject, then they have to repeat the complete set of exams including the written part. All students have a maximum of 3 attempts to succeed in this exam. If they fail to succeed, they end secondary school without the Maturity and are unable to apply for college or university. Matura in Hungary, the official term for Matura in Hungary is a copyright reads a copyright GI. This happens usually after 12 or 13 years of schooling. Each candidate who passes their final exams receives a document that contains their grades and which formally enables them to go to a university. Hungarian students have to take an exam of Hungarian literature and grammar, mathematics, history, one foreign language and one subject of the student's choice. In Hungary, the examination of maturity assesses knowledge in 5 grades: excellent, good, medium, pass, and fail. The UK GCE advanced level grade equivalent is AAA or AAB, ABB or BBB, and BBC or BCC. Maturity in Italy. In Italy, the examination is commonly called Maturity or just Esame di Stato, but the official name is Esame di Stato Conclusivo del Corso di Studio di Istruzione Secondaria Superiore. This is the final exam for secondary school, which students are normally required to pass in order to be admitted to colleges and universities. In Italy, the Maturity is informally regarded as a rite of passage from adolescence to adulthood, after which secondary school graduates get ready for higher education and/or a job. Examination boards are composed of 3 internal teachers belonging to the student's school, 3 external teachers and an external president of the board. Every year the Ministry of Education decides which subjects will be assigned to external teachers. These are different depending on the type of school. The exam is divided into written and oral sections. The written section consists of 3 tests. The first one is Italian and is identical nationwide. Students are required to write an essay, an article on a given topic, but they can also choose to analyze and comment on a text. The second test changes according to the type of school the student attended, so it can be on a wide variety of different subjects, such as pedagogy and psychology, mathematics, foreign language, Latin, and ancient Greek. It is identical nationwide for schools of the same type. The subject is decided by the ministry a few months before the exam. It is almost always the same for some types of school and it is chosen among the written subjects for other schools. Finally, the third test is about 4 selected subjects of the last year, and it is written by every single examining commission. The student doesn't know before which subjects are in the text. The interview section is to assess that the student has really reached a personal and intellectual maturity concerning the various subjects of his or her last school year. The examining commission is supposed to ask about every subject, but has got to make sure that the candidate is also able to discuss about a variety of themes explaining and justifying his or her opinion. Also, in recent years has become customary for each student to prepare a short essay on a free topic, intended to showcase the ability to cover different sides of the topic using extensively the notions and methods learnt in school. The scoring has been changed various times since 1969, 1969 a Euro 1998, pass 36, maximum 60, 1999 a Euro 2006, pass 60, maximum 100, 2007, 2008, pass 60, maximum 100 cum laude, 2009 a Euro present, pass 60, maximum 100 cum laude. The score is calculated by adding up credits up to 25 points from school grades. The top score is assigned to students who have an average above 9 out of 10. Written exam, the pass mark is of 30 points out of 45. The candidate sits 3 written tests. For each one the passing mark is 10 points out of 15. Oral exam, the passing mark is 20 points out of 30. Bonus, an extra 5 points can be awarded to the candidate by the examining commission. In order to get this bonus, candidates must have received at least 15 credits and the sum of their oral and written exams must be at least 70. The students who are able to reach 100 points without needing a bonus can be awarded the load praise by the examination board. Matura in Kosovo. In the Republic of Kosovo testio Matura šteta ruridra 3/4 avni maturski ispit is mandatory for every high school student in order to get the high school certificate. Without passing the Matura exam, one cannot apply to any university within the Republic. It has different number of questions per subject, depending on the high school's profile. It is held every year in June, and with the latest reforms, there are 2 tests, on 2 different days. The first one has 120 questions, and is questions about general subjects. The second one has 80 questions, and is professional subjects questions. The tests are held on the same day for every school, usually in the middle of June. There is also a similar test for the primary school pupils as well, called Testi Semi-Matura šteta ruridra 3/4 avni malamaturski ispit, which has 100 questions, and is mandatory for every pupil who will continue to high school. The tests are provided by the Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, and are in Albanian, Serbian, Turkish and Bosniak, who make the ethnical groups of the Republic of Kosovo. Matura in Macedonia. In Macedonia the Matura is obligatory for every high school student who is planning on going to college afterwards. It is called THN Euro TH paragraph TH degree TH squared TH 1/2 TH degree TH 1/4 TH degree N unfloren N Euro TH degree or simply TH 1/4 TH degree N unfloren N Euro TH degree. Every student who intends to pass the Matura is required to complete 4 exams, native language, demonstrating knowledge of literature and grammar of the 4-year high school studying, as well as essay writing. Mathematics foreign language, students choose whether they will take mathematics or a foreign language. 2 subjects by student's choice, a project task. Matura in Poland. In the Polish education system, the exam is officially called egzamin maturalny, but it is commonly known as Matura. It is taken on completion of high school, in May. The exam is not compulsory, although Polish students must pass it in order to be able to apply for higher education courses in Poland and elsewhere. A major reform of the exam came into effect as from 2005. Under the old system, candidates' performance was assessed solely by teachers from their own schools. In the new system, written work is assessed by independent examiners. This is considered to make the results more objective, and as a result Polish higher education institutions no longer run entrance exams, but base their admissions primarily on Matura results. As of 2015, every student taking the Matura takes 3 compulsory exams at basic level in Polish language, a selected modern language, mathematics, as well as at least 1 subject at extended level. These include the above as well as biology, chemistry, geography, social studies, history, history of art, history of music, information technology, physics and astronomy, Latin and ancient history, philosophy, another modern language, languages of ethnic groups in Poland, and the Kashubian language. Exams in Polish language and other languages include both a written paper and an oral examination. Results are currently expressed as percentages. To pass the Matura, it is necessary to score at least 30% in each of the 3 compulsory exams. The results of the additional exams do not affect whether a student passes, but are usually a factor when applying for higher education places. The exams are conducted by the Central Examination Board, 1, assisted by a number of regional examination boards. The same bodies also conduct tests for pupils completing primary school, and examinations at the end of middle school. A custom associated with the Matura is the Studnia Cube WKA, a ball organized for students and their teachers approximately 100 days before the examinations begin. Following a popular superstition, candidates wear red underwear at the ball, and then wear the same items for the exam itself, to bring luck. Maturita in Slovakia. In Slovakia the Maturita is formally called Maturitniska Angstromka, but usually it is called simply Maturita. There are only 2 compulsory subjects: a Euro-Slovak language and literature and a foreign language. Since January 2011 English has become a compulsory subject on Slovak Matura. Students from a gymnasium have to choose at least 2 additional subjects such as mathematics, physics, biology, chemistry, history, geography, philosophy, arts and cultures, economics, informatics and IT. The students can choose a level of Matura from the foreign language: a Euro B1, medium, B2, hard, or sometimes, on a linguist-specialized gymnasium school, C1 level. In the past, if the student had got an additional certificate from foreign language, at least at level B1, he/she did not need to pass the foreign language exam. However, this was cancelled in 2014 and now all secondary education students are required to pass the foreign language exam as a part of their Matura. Matura in Slovenia. In Slovenia, the Splavna Matura is an obligatory exam one must pass after finishing gymnazija to have one's education formally recognized and to become eligible to enroll in colleges and universities. It should not be confused with the Poklekna Matura, which is the final examination at vocational schools and does not lead to university studies. Since there is no entrance examination at the vast majority of Slovenian universities' programs, the score on this exam is the main criterion for admission. It consists of 3 compulsory and 2 elective subjects. One must take Slovene, mathematics and 1 foreign language. The elective subjects can be chosen among all the other subjects one has encountered during his schooling. It is possible to choose the second foreign language as one of the elective subjects. The leaving exam is a centralized affair, conducted by the National Examination Center, which is in charge of selecting tasks, appointing national examiners, grading the sheets and sending the scores to all Slovenian universities the applicants have applied for. Grading is somewhat complicated, as there exist 3 different criteria for different sets of subjects. Slovene is unique and is graded on scale of 1 to 8. It is possible to take mathematics and all foreign languages on a higher or basic level. Basic marks range from 1 to 5, whereas marks for the higher level range from 1 to 8. The examinee may only take up to 2 subjects on the higher level. All other subjects are graded from 1 to 5. The only failing score is 1. All other scores are passes. It is also possible to pass the exam with grade 1 in one subject, however, 2 conditions must be met: the examinee has achieved at least 80% of the points required for grade 2 on a basic level in this subject, and the examinee received at least grade 2 in all other subjects, whereof, at least 2 subjects have received grade 3 or higher, or, at least 1 subject has received grade 3 or higher. Thus, it is possible to gain from 10 to 34 points. Students who have achieved 30 or more points are awarded leaving exam diplomas cum laude and are usually congratulated by the President of Slovenia at a festive reception in September. Structure of particular exams: Mother Tongue Euro-Slovene, Sheet 1, students write an essay on the 2 pieces of literature. The National Committee for Slovene publishes the titles of the 2 works the examinees are expected to know 1 year ahead. This sheet represents 50% of the final score. Sheet 2, students are given an unknown text from a newspaper, magazine etc., followed by some 30 tasks, testing their ability to read, interpret, and understand the text. Also, students' knowledge of Slovene grammar, word formation and spelling is tested. The last task is to form a certain type of text, being an invitation, a letter of complaint, biography etc. This sheet represents 30% of the final mark. Oral exam, a candidate is given 3 questions. The first 2 are related to the world literature, whereas the third asks about the historical development of literary Slovene from its beginnings in the year 1551 to the present. It is possible to gain 20%. The final score is expressed in points from 1 to 8. Mathematics. It is possible to take this subject on a higher or basic level. Sheet 1, students are given approximately 10 tasks, evaluating their knowledge of different fields in mathematics. This sheet accounts for 53.3% or 80%. Sheet 2, students are given 3 more difficult tasks. This sheet is worth 26.7%. Oral exam, an examinee is given 3 questions, testing their ability to prove certain theorems or explain some mathematical axioms and definitions. The final score is expressed in points from 1 to 5 or 8. Foreign languages, chemistry, information technology, computer science, physics, geography, history, sociology, philosophy, psychology. The nationwide leaving exam was reintroduced in Slovenia in 1994, after all upper secondary schools had been suspended in the 1980s and reopened in 1991. The exam is conducted in 2 terms, the first one being in spring and the second one in autumn. Due to the university admittance procedure, of which the first call concludes in July, applicants passing the exam in September have usually a very limited choice of university programs for that year. There has been a heated debate lately whether this leaving exam should once again be completely abolished. As of January 2007, the position of the Ministry of Education remains that the Matura will still be the only way of completing secondary education. The decision on whether universities should introduce entrance examinations and reduce the importance of the leaving exam to a mere pass-fail has not been made yet. In Switzerland, gymnasial Matura, Maturita copyright gymnasial, Maturita licell equals, in Switzerland's education system, secondary school has several tiers oriented towards different professional tracks. The gymnasium, leading to the Matura graduation, is the highest tier, offering broad and thorough academic foundations to prepare its students for direct entry to university. Approximately 20% of youth attain the Matura every year, although this figure varies among the different cantons, which are in charge of secondary education. The gymnasial Matura is required and sufficient for Swiss students to study at a university or a federal institute of technology irrespective of their subject choice. The specific requirements for a Matura graduation vary slightly among the cantons. In general they involve 2 parts, the grades of the last school year and standardized Matura exams at the end of 12th or 13th grade, depending on the canton. Also a scientific Matura paper of about 25 pages has to be executed. Grades attained in classes during the last school year and at the exams, as well as the Matura paper contribute equally to the final grade. With a revision in 2007, among others an appreciation of science subjects were carried out by individual graduation of biology, physics and chemistry, increasing the proportion of teaching mathematics and natural science subjects as well as the introduction of computer science as a supplementary subject. 6 is the best grade, 1 is the lowest. The required average grade to attain Matura is 4. In order to pass, all grades below 4 have to be compensated by better grades in double, and no more than 4 grades lower than 4 are allowed. The cantons are responsible for the organization of the final tests. Exams include a series of oral and written tests. Tests are typically administered by a team consisting of a teacher who is involved in the students' classes and an independent expert. This cantonal Matura exam is recognized in the whole country, but there is no single standardized test on a national level, in contrary to what exists in France, for instance, where the same test with the same questions and the same themes is passed by all students on the same day. The gymnasial Matura subjects by federal ordinance are: the Matura consists of all 10 or 11 basic subjects, one major subject, one additional subject, Matura paper, evaluated by work process, written paper, and oral presentation. Basic subjects are: a first national language, such as French, German, Italian, or Romansh, including its related literature; a second national language, a third language, either a third national language, or English, or a classic language, either Latin or Ancient Greek; mathematics, biology, chemistry, physics, history, geography, visual arts or music. Cantons may voluntarily provide an additional basic subject. Philosophy, the major subject is selected from classic languages, a modern language, physics and applied mathematics, biology and chemistry, economics and law, philosophy, education, psychology, visual arts, music. The additional subject is selected from physics, chemistry, biology, applied mathematics, informatics, history, geography, philosophy, religion, economics and law, education, psychology, visual arts, music, sports. The distribution of teaching hours among the subjects must adhere to the following scheme: for basic subjects, languages €30 40%, mathematics and natural sciences, €25 35%, human and social sciences, €10 20%, arts, €5 10%. For major and additional subjects, a Matura paper, €15 25%. Matura exams are executed on at least 5 of the following subjects: the first language, a second national language, mathematics, the major subject, another subject chosen by cantonal preferences. A federal Matura exists on a national level, though each cantonal Matura is also inherently approved on a federal level. The federal Matura is organized by the State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation twice a year in each linguistical region. An additional exam called Latinum Helveticum, also organized by the State Secretariat for Education, Research and Innovation, allows the student to study a field at a university that requires Latin knowledges. =Fach Matura/Maturita Copyright Culture Gar Copyright Na Copyright Rail/Maturita Specializata/Maturita Media Specializada Berufs Matura/Maturita Copyright Professional/Maturita Professional Matura in the Ukrainian diaspora. Matura is common in Ukrainian secondary education in the Ukrainian diaspora, specifically in the United States and Canada. It is usually run by Saturday Ukrainian education schools sponsored by the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America, which regulates and writes the various tests. Children of Ukrainian descent are tested on Saturdays during a month-long period toward the end of their junior or senior year of high school on their knowledge of Ukrainian language, geography, history, culture, and literature. Often, these tests are approved by local government's accreditation standards as a second language school which can, under certain circumstances, be applied to other schools. See also, Abitur, Baccalaureate, Bologna process, high school diploma. References. External links: Esame di Stato in Italy, Matriculation Certificate in Switzerland, Matura in Poland, Everything about Matura in Poland, Matura in Slovakia, Matura in Slovakia, in Bulgaria, Everything about Bulgarian Matura, Site of Somat, Site of State Exams in Czech Republic.